Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Spring 2021 virtual conference. I am Rachel, the online community manager for the Gypsy Nurse, and I'm here with Steve, the Gypsy Nurse's CEO, Steve Curtin. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Rachel, good morning.
Good morning. All right, well, we have tons and tons of great information for you, tons and tons of great speakers. If you're not familiar with the Gypsy Nurse, we're the number one online community for travel nurses. I'll let Steve discuss that a little bit more, but we're super excited to have you all watching this morning, bright and early. So probably some night shifters, some day offers. So thank you for joining us so early today for nurses.
All right. Well, Rachel, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I just wanted to say a couple things before we get started. First of all, as CEO of the Gypsy Nurse, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And I want to thank our travel nurse community for all that you do, particularly during this COVID pandemic. The Gypsy Nurse's mission is to support travel nurses. And we hope you find this session and the others we have planned this week to be informative and helpful in your travel nursing journey. Please remember to visit the gypsynurse.com Spring Virtual Conference agenda under the Events tab for a full list of all of our virtual events this week. Please bookmark the gypsynurse.com as your source for travel nursing resources, including over 150,000 jobs from over 65 top agencies, housing options, and great content from experts that we publish daily to help you on your travel nursing journey. As a reminder, these sessions will be recorded and available on demand on our website the week of April the 26th. The Gypsy Nurse is the number one destination for travel nurses, and we thank you for your support of the Gypsy Nurse. I would also like to thank today's sponsor, AMN Healthcare, and Sandra Vield, as well as Alyssa Dver, our confidence expert, for taking time today to provide some great information on how to combat bullying in the workplace. So, Rachel, it's back over to you.
Yeah, definitely. And like Steve was saying, you can watch this all week. I'll show you how to get here. All you do is go to the gypsynurse.com. At that homepage, there's the events tab. We just click on that and you can see all of our lineup. Let me scroll down a little bit. So we have Alyssa today, Furnish Finder, Karen Buxman later. She's a neurohumorist. She's very funny. So that's how you will be able to see any of the past ones or any of the future, or just to check out any of the upcoming ones. We do have some contests going on. If you do register for the virtual conference, down here at the bottom, see we have lots of presenters. At the bottom here, if you register, you will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. And then if you come up back to the top, or you can do it whatever order you want to do it, if you sign up on the gypsynurse.com and become a registered member, you'll get a double entry for doing both of those registrations. So, better chances to win. And so then we also have another giveaway for today, another Amazon gift card that we will be giving away. So if you interact on any of the sessions today, even if you do it 3 times, that's 3 entries. So when you interact in the conversations, you'll be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. So as you can see, great presenters, a lot of fun gifts today. And then we would like to take a big thanks to Sandra for joining us. She is from AMN, our sponsor of the day.
Good morning, Sandra.
Good morning. Good morning. So excited to be here.
Early your time in San Diego, isn't it?
It sure is. It's 6:05, but no place I'd rather be than here with you. We're so excited to be contributing. So definitely worth waking up for this morning.
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, Sandra is the sorry.
That's okay.
You are the Senior Director of Training and Development for Travel Nurse Division, and she's been with AMN for 6 years, so we can't think of a better person to come on and, represent AMN. They are also going to be giving away a goodie box, too, so another nurse will be entered to win for that. So if you interact on this session, one nurse could win a $100 Amazon gift card, and the other nurse can win an AMN gift box.
And Rachel and I are not eligible for the gift box, right?
No.
Although you wish you could be, because it's pretty awesome.
Sounds good.
And then, we'll give you a chance to talk about AMN, Sandra, and let you speak a minute on those.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, Rachel, for letting us be a part of this. We're so excited to just see all the presenters today. I know I'm going to get to be a part of it all day, which is great. AMN Healthcare is the largest total talent solutions company. So my particular division, of course, is Travel Nurse, and we interact a lot with Gypsy Nurse and are very thankful for everything that you guys do. I think just the only thing I'll say, just to echo Steve a little bit earlier, is the last year has just been insane. I mean, I don't think any of us could have seen it coming. The pandemic definitely changed all of our lives. We're working from totally different areas, and we know that for many of you, things were changed, and we're just so appreciative to all of our healthcare workers. We saw so many people step up and raise their hands and just be willing to help. So thank you. Thank you. Just, I don't think we can tell you enough how appreciative and how grateful we are for all of your contributions, everything that you did over the past year and that you continue to do. Just without even blinking your eye or missing a step. So I can't start anything really without just being so appreciative for all of our nurses. And we saw a lot of that in the last year. So that's really all I'll say. I'm just so excited to get started with Alyssa, but thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well said. You always have great words.
Thank
you. All right. Well, we would now like to bring on our first speaker of the Spring 2021 virtual conference, backed by popular demand. She is a confidence crusader, neuro nerd, and success equalizer, having empowered over 350,000 individuals with the science of confidence. Last year, she became a TEDx and Boston Best Speaker, as well as a 7th-time best-selling author. I know a lot of us tried to get a lot of stuff done in 2020 with the pandemic, so I think Alyssa took the cake with that. I didn't get much done. I just hung out on the network group. So it is my pleasure to bring to you our first presenter, Alyssa Dver, the confidence woman herself. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
I am so excited to be with you guys. And I'm not just saying that, like, it has been a hard year. And as a speaker, sometimes, you say to yourself, will we ever get back on stage? And will I ever get that energy? Just preparing for this with you guys has been such an honor, and being asked to come back and speak to nurses. Oh my goodness. How lucky am I? I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alyssa. We appreciate your coming on. And you were the inaugural speaker for our first virtual conference last year. And literally by popular demand, we had many nurses ask for you to come back. So Alyssa Dver, we're happy to have you come back and present. And this is a really interesting topic today.
Well, let me tell you, Steve, when we were talking about what we were going to do this year and you said bullying, I was like, really? In the nursing area? Are you kidding me? So, before we get into this kind of, how shall I say, less than happy topic of bullying, I want to start with a positive note. I want to ask everyone to warm up their fingers and chat with me. I want to know not just why you became a nurse. I want to know why you became a gypsy nurse. What was the reason, and in particular, the top reason, if there was one that stood out, that you all said, this is for me. I want to be a traveling nurse. I want to do this. I want to commit my career. Would you send me some chat love, my friends, and Rachel, let's see what the reasons are, because I think in our heads we may know some of the answers, but I'm interested to see what the folks are going to say. And Rachel, I don't know if I can see chat, so I may need you to read some to me here.
Yeah, I will let you know. I don't see any coming on yet. So if anybody has their, get your fingers warm, guys.
Well, I can, in advance of that, Alyssa, I can tell you that's a, why people became a travel nurse is a very popular topic within the network group. I can tell you some of the things that I've observed over the past few years being involved with the Gypsy Nurse. I would say number one, nurses want to help people. So I think there's an aspect of helping people, just generally speaking. And I would say number two, in terms of travel nursing specifically, the opportunity to see different parts of the United States while they're also working. So those are some of the things that, even though I am not a nurse, I have particularly observed through interactions with our Facebook network group.
Yeah, and I hope people are going to get real with me today. I'm a very authentic, maybe to a fault speaker. One of the things that I was reading in all the chat groups too is the money is pretty good. You do get to kind of try and see other places, other people. There's like all these kind of exciting aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And I think with any career, you have this kind of fantasy almost about all these great things, and then the reality hits. But I do think that the things that you mentioned, Steve, and all the reasons that I read, they're really good reasons. It's not like people are like, well, I'm going to become famous. That's not that kind of a fantasy. That it's a real, I'm going to see other places. I'm going to meet with other people. I'm going to make good money, and I'm going to make a difference. And those are real. And I don't want anyone to ever forget those real reasons, those real beautiful reasons for why you do what you do. Now, I'm not the first one to tell you, I know, but I have to reiterate that you are superheroes. And if you think about what a superhero does, is they bring confidence to other people. And that's what a nurse does every minute of every day, the patients and everyone around them. So, I kind of giggled when I saw this comic book. It was like really cute. But the truth of the matter is, I have friends who are nurses, and I tell them all the time that I am so, so, so proud to know them, so honored by just being around their energy and their positivity, and it's wonderful. So when Steve, you and I were talking about this topic, and we said, there's all this bullying, I was literally like, no, please tell me that's not true. And, villains are going to be in our worlds. And as a superhero, as somebody who's going out and doing great work, yes, you have great responsibility, as they say, but unfortunately, you also become a little bit of a target. And there are people that are going to try and take your confidence. I call those villains, because that's what villains do. They hurt people at the benefit for themselves. So, I wasn't surprised to hear that doctors can be villains, bullies, meanies, right? That just wasn't like shattering for me. I bet my bill of kind of arrogant, overconfident doctors for sure. I wasn't even surprised by the patients. I went through taking care of my father at a residence in his last years, and I would walk around and watch some of the patients yelling at the nursing staff, and I literally would go and be like, stop that. You're only alive because of these people. So I guess I wasn't shocked about the fact that a patient could kind of be a villain, a confidence villain too. I think where I really kind of went, whoa, was the fact that other nurses are notoriously villains, as we're going to call them today, bullies and meanies. And Steve, I don't know if you remember, but like when you were telling me this phrase, I literally almost had tears in my eyes about nurses eating their young, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I've as I said, I'm not a nurse, but I have been around nursing and travel nursing for about 14 years with a variety of different organizations, and I do have some nurses in my family. And one of the unfortunate phrases within the industry is that nurses eat their young. And obviously, when we talk about this, that's not to say that this is a pervasive across, a significant portion of the population. It is not. I think the vast majority of nurses are extremely supportive of each other, and older nurses want to help bring younger nurses into the community and help, and so on and so forth. So I want to emphasize that this is not a blanket statement. This is just, pertaining to a small, very, very small percentage of the nursing community. That said, Alyssa, as you well know, that even if it's just a very, very small percentage of people, that can do tremendous damage. And we have seen that phrase used over and over again, as you're kind of illustrating here in the network group. Why do nurses eat their young? So I definitely can say from an observation standpoint that paradigm is unfortunately out there.
Yeah, and Alyssa too, one of our comments that just came in, she was actually forced into travel nursing by being bullied to the point where she got depressed and unable to function. So it's, the main reason people leave hospitals because they're being bullied. And sometimes, you don't get that option to be able to just get up and move. So thank goodness for Rebecca that she would be able to leave.
Yeah. And, these are just three of, unfortunately, way too many comments that are in some of the chats out there. You know, it was heart-wrenching for me to see this, right? Here are my superheroes getting picked on, and all I wanted to do was reach out and slap somebody, say, stop, be nice to the nurses, right? But, you know, it is more common than we know. In fact, when I was doing some research for this, and there's the URL at the end, I'm going to tell everyone how to get a copy of these slides. So you don't have to scribble that down, but just so you know, this is not my numbers. It's actually more common than I want to even admit to you. Look at some of these numbers. 55% by another nurse. Look how many nurses leave within the first 6 months. 60%. I was like, what? It gets worse, my friends. Unfortunately, 34% actually leave the nursing profession. So here you join a profession with all this great, beautiful compassion and reason to go, and then somebody else causes you that thought of it's not worth it, just because of their, nice to say just, but because of their verbal abuse. Now, here was the real one that kind of wrenched me from my seat. And Sandra, I have a feeling this one's going to resonate with you. And I'd love to hear from your view from the trenches. But apparently, nurses get picked on more than any other profession.
It's so crazy, isn't it? And it's so scary to see some of those statistics. 60% of new nurses leaving their first job, 34% leaving altogether. We all know that that's the biggest fear for us, is that there's just not going to be enough nurses and people to take care of us as we continue forward through the years and as more nurses retire. So it's really scary to see those numbers, but definitely something that we see within travel nursing. I know you're going to talk about it, Alyssa, but as new nurses are coming into different facilities and they're there to help. And that really is, as Steve mentioned, one of the main reasons that they go to different communities is to really provide that support. But we see that bullying, and you know, we try to help our nurses through it as much as possible. So it is scary.
It's brutal. And just for the record, you can see in the URL, this was a new study. This is not old data. This is as of January. So, you know, this is real. It's really happening. Rebecca, thank you for jumping on the chat already and telling us about your experiences, or anybody else out there that would actually help show that this is not something that's isolated. It's not something that if you've experienced, you think that you're the only one. No, there is a pervasiveness about that. And part of what I want to do today is help you understand that it's not you, that this happens a lot, and it happens enough that these numbers, you know, are scary, that we have to do something about it together. So anybody else out there, send me some chat on if it's happened to you, you've been bullied in any form by a nurse or anybody else at work. I know sometimes people don't want to like put it in the chat just because they're like, I don't want to admit to it. But here's the thing. We're going to get over the hump today together, because we are going to do something about it together. And we're going to do something that is comfortable and safe. So we're going to just jump into some of the details here. Now, why does it happen? This, again, when I was looking online and I was talking to some experts, I was like, why is this happening? It doesn't make sense to me. You're taking the people that I think are possibly the angels on earth, the most compassionate people. Why are they bullying? What is it about them? And these are just some of the things I saw online. You'll see that some of them I don't necessarily agree with as we get into the brain science of it. But there, you know, there is this thought, I should say, there's really no data or evidence that when you go to school as a nurse, you're kind of taught to be subservient. It's part of the underlying, if you will, assumption or position of the schools, position of the doctors, position of even the patients for that matter. All right, maybe not. There was more information from some of the psychologists, and then I talked to some people about this, because this idea of when you behave as an oppressed group, the bottom line is that you feel that you deserve it. If everybody else is getting treated this way, or you know of enough people that are getting treated like this, then you're just part of that pack and you deserve it. And again, that may be true, but I still don't really give it as an excuse. I don't think that that justifies why bullying happens. I certainly know that it is hard to stand up to a bully. It doesn't matter if you're 10 or you're 50, it's hard. So the burden is heavy, and you say to yourself, why do I have to stand up to this person? Why isn't anybody else doing it for me? But other people may not even be aware. And then of course it's risky. You know, you're raising your voice and to an administration or to other nurses that, you know, maybe all of a sudden they're like, you whine too much or stop complaining, right? So that makes it really hard. And, you know, Rachel, Steve, we've been reading a lot of these blogs. You know, you can see all the different answers from different people. Some are like, you know, stand up and screaming out that they're being bullied. And some people are like, just tell them to knock it off. You see all these different answers. Is there any particular answers that you've seen that you shocked you? Because I saw an awful lot of like, you know, just deal with it. And I was like, no, you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I've seen a few people that are just like, some are saying like, just leave the assignment, cancel this assignment, which causes a lot more issues with yourself and, you know, finding your next assignment. You know, we see a lot of that. There's like, you know, sometimes sabotage, like revenge stuff that you're just like, nope, don't do that, please. Don't risk your career for it, you know, but that's a lot. But yeah, I see a lot of just stand up to them, tell the head nurse, but you know what? A lot of times it is the head nurse that is the bully. So who do you go to then? You know, it's kind of like that.
Horrible.
Yeah, I would agree with Rachel. I think it kind of spans both ends of the spectrum. One end of the spectrum is, listen, just deal with it. It's not worth it to confront the person. You know, people are afraid, particularly if it's you know, kind of a management aspect. They don't want that to affect their assignment. And some people say, well, you know, the good news is I'll be finished in 6 weeks. I think I can deal with it for 6 weeks. So you kind of get that. Just work with it and do the best you can. But in the meantime, there's a significant amount of damage that can be done through that, you know, 6-week period, we'll say, and the remainder of an assignment of feeling like you're being bullied. The other end of the spectrum is that sort of confrontation, either raising the issue directly to the person or you know, kind of raising it above them. But I think for the nurse that carries risks and concerns as well. So I don't think there has been one consistent and agreed upon solution, certainly that I have observed within the discussion group on our Facebook network group that we have. I really think it goes kind of both ends of the spectrum.
There's Ratchet no longer exists. So, well, that's a good thing, Cynthia. But there are other villains out there. And, you know, anyone who's as old as I am and maybe it remembers watching the Batman series, you know, this riddle me this Batman question.
I do.
Yeah, Steve, thank you for being the old person with the you know, here's the thing, you know, again, you can read all this stuff online, why nurses get bullied and all this, but today we're talking about travel nurses, right? And there seems to be even more bullying. And again, and statistically, there's no numbers out there, but from the immense amount of chatter on the internet, like travel nurses, my friends, you are getting the brunt of this. And so again, I'm going to invite folks to chat with me, and Sandra, maybe comment here, because you're seeing both staff and travel staff. Like, what's your take? Why do you think travel nurses get it even more than staff nurses? And my folks online, again, send me some chat love if you want to contribute your perspective why travel nurses are getting more of it, or seemingly getting more bullying than staff nurses.
Yeah, it's just one of those mysteries, right? I see Rebecca's in the chat here about reporting it to the manager. Just to kind of hit on what Steve said too. Sometimes the answer on a lot of Facebook groups or just with chat within is just to kind of suck it up for the next few weeks. And it's so hard to hear that as someone who works with travel nurses daily, that their experience would not be what they wanted it to be, which is that, you know, fun, new place to travel to, experience a new hospital, maybe build their resume, we see as a lot. So it, you know, I'm always a little bit flabbergasted when I hear that nurses are being bullied, especially travel nurses who are coming in to fill a need. And it's almost, I'm kind of with you, Alyssa. I want to go in there and say, you guys understand that if you didn't have this travel nurse here, your unit might not be open or operating in the same way that it is currently. We understand that as a whole, correct? So I don't know if it's just a new way to kind of direct whatever those potential issues might be, if maybe they really miss the person who used to work next to them and they're looking for an outlet. But it's just really a sad thing to hear happen very frequently. And as you said, more than what we really even expect.
Yeah. So we're going to dive deep into some of the reasons. But, you know, some of the obvious things that have been in chat are everything from because you make more money, because you get to see the world, you know, all the reasons that most people get into travel nursing. become kind of the brunt of what they're getting bullied over. But I want to get a little deeper than the superficial today. So what we're going to do today is we're really going to apply some brain science. It's my thing. I hope everybody else out there is kind of interested in brain science, if not a wonk like me. But we're going to understand why it happens and what the impact is on the bully, but also, on the victim, but also the bully. But why do victims accept it? How can we deal with it? And how do we deal with it in a way that's not a heavy lift, that doesn't put your career into some kind of a risky proposition? So hopefully, again, there's some other neuro nerds out there. Obviously, with last year's talk, Steve, I'm hoping my neuro friends are all jazzed to do a little bit of a high-level brain science lesson, because when you understand why this happens, it makes it so much easier to defend yourself, but also be above it. So what I mean by above it is not be equally angry and frustrated like the bully is. So we're going to hopefully release some stress in everybody today. So here we go, brain science. We're going to do a really quick overview of some of the cognitive centers that are important when we talk about confidence and bullying. And again, if you were in my talk last year, you heard a lot more detail, but I'm going to kind of keep it high level. We're going to be referring to the brainstem, the good old, literally oldest part of the brain, oldest part of the evolutionary trail, the brainstem, which controls all our autonomic functions. It is most associated with anything that has to do with survival. So whether it's breathing, sweating, any kind of heartbeat, all that kind of function that you all well know. We're going to talk not so much about the limbic system today, but important to know that limbic is right tucked into the middle of the brain. It's gathering data from all different places, externally, internally, your past, your future, so to speak, your current, present data that's coming in, and it's creating those emotional answers for you that then also kind of delve into your memory bank, which is tucked right into that area too. We certainly want to focus today, but in general, on this beautiful part of our brain in the front called the prefrontal cortex, responsible for all our executive functions, which means all our calculations, our correlations, all our heavy duty thinking when we're trying to figure out how to treat a patient, what's the next step, all that planning. All our decision making happens in the prefrontal. Now that yellow dot, don't underestimate its power. It may be small, but it's very mighty, and it is the amygdala. And the amygdala very kind of, how shall I put it, superficially, because it's got a lot of functions, but the way I like to describe it, it's your alarm system. It is the triage for the rest of the brain. It is looking to see something that could be coming in, information, particularly information that may harm you, and it's deciding where to triage that. So hopefully all of this brain science stuff is old hat for most of you, and I've spoken a language for those of you where it's new. Don't be scared. It's very, very straightforward. But here's where it gets interesting and exciting, because when your brain takes in information, and in particular, let's start with physical, something that's physically going to potentially harm you. And this is a very simple example, but say you're driving to work, somebody swerves in front of you, cuts you off, and you're like, whoa. Now, in this case, it's a physical fear. You're about to be hit and harmed. Your amygdala says, no time to think about this. We're not going to sit there and decide what to do. We don't have time. So we're going to send it fast path right into the brainstem. Brainstem reacts and it protects you. So what do? You swerve out of the way. You don't even think about it. You just do it. It's a reaction. You may even do one of those, and that's a reaction too. That's all brainstem activity. You don't have time to send it up into your prefrontal. You don't have time to decide, should I swerve this way or that way? Should I put on the brake or not? You just go. You just do it. You just move. All right. So very simple example of a physical reactive brainstem activity. Why are you telling me this? Well, because in a physical sense, oftentimes you're not really thinking, you are reacting. But when we have an emotional situation, when we're being bullied, for example, we have more time. And the amygdala in that moment has to make a decision, a literal decision. Do I send it down into the brainstem or up into the prefrontal? Now, here's where I get all excited about talking about fear. Because in the confidence context, when we're talking about emotional fear, there's only three things that we really want to zero in on. And that is the fear of failure, fear of screwing up, literally, the fear of regret, doing or not doing something, and the biggie, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being liked. So when something happens, again, we get bullied, maybe we have to give a presentation, we have to apply for a job, we have to have dinner with somebody we don't like, whatever, an emotional fear comes in. It's those three fears that we're looking for, that the amygdala is making that decision. All right, so incoming, I've just been bullied. Do I want to react? Do I want to be irrational and focus? Am I going to be all nervous? Am I going to be aggressive? What is the cave person reaction that it triggers? Or can I send it up into my prefrontal and be more calm and thoughtful? So lesson 1 for today is you get to make that decision anytime there's an emotional fear that comes in. If you stop yourself long enough, and it's only a second, to say, well, I can handle this. I'm going to handle this, and I'm going to handle it up here. Now, this is very easy on a slide. I get it. I get it. It's even harder today, and I realize that too. I realize that too. Now, here's applies to everyone, nurses and everyone else on the planet. Our world has gotten very complicated. Our world has gotten so complicated that literally at the end of the day, I have a feeling I'm not the only one who doesn't really want to even figure out what to watch on TV because there's so many bloody channels. There's so many bloody remotes even in my house. I joke in my house, I say to my husband, just buy me Italian dressing. He goes, why? It's because I don't have to make that decision what to put on my salad at night. That's how exhausted we are at the end of the day. And overchoice is literally you've spent all the resources in your brain because you do have a finite amount of neural resources. You have spent all those resources to the point where you're exhausted and you can't make a decision. So anyone on chat, you can certainly say, that's you, that's me, Steve. You don't have to be old to be exhausted, but needless to say, at the end of the day, with all this technology, do you ever feel like you can't make a decision to eat what to eat at night?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My problem is I want everything. So
it's hard. It's really hard. Now, this was going on long before last year, right? I talked about this, in fact, last year before COVID even hit. This is the reality that we're living in now, right? What masks do we have to wear? You know, talk about decision over choice. You know, how many people have asked me which vaccine did I get? And I say to them, does it really matter? I didn't really have a choice. I got an appointment. I went. That was it. It was very nice. Just go. I was like, what are people gaming this? That they're just deciding if they should go to this facility or that facility? You get an appointment, you go, right? But which vaccine? All the whole controversy. Should you get vaccinated, of course? And Rachel, I literally did cry when you sent me that bully example of somebody who, a nurse that was actually being bullied because she was vaccinated.
Yep. And we even see it in the group too, because there's, a lot of people that don't want it and do want it. And just throughout this whole past, with the vaccine coming out, people are like, no, I'm not getting it. And then people are saying, are you crazy? And then vice versa. And so we've just seen it, even nurse to nurse, if someone's deciding not to get it, is, causing bullying too. But yeah, that was just awful.
It was awful. I literally had tears on my eyes. And it's not whether you believe in vaccination or not. It's that something like this can then again stir up all this controversy. Going back to work and the means and the issues around it, as if that's not hard enough, the PPE and the changes and the legislation. And then, we had a pretty strange year. Let's just call it that. Unusually emotional, unusually socially exhausting. So what does that do for our poor amygdala? It makes it really, really hard to stop ourselves and put it up here. It makes it really hard to be thoughtful. It makes it really hard to be in control of your emotions. So to prove it, I worked with a company called ThinkX, and I don't know if the folks who are listening have already taken this. We made it available for anyone in the gypsy nurse community that wants to take this diagnostic. It's part of a membership. I was really, really passionate about helping this community. So I asked ThinkX if we could give everyone not only this diagnostic for free, but a full year of membership. And their company is all about managing your thinking processes. And so I've spent a lot of time with them over the past 6 months, really understanding how that's done, how it's measured. And this is one of the diagnostics used. And these are actual samples. I took obviously the names off of some of the gypsy nurses who've already taken this. And I circled in red, no, you know what, Sherlock, anxiety levels are high.
Yeah.
Anxiety levels are high. And, you know, the graphs, and without getting into too much detail here, it almost doesn't matter the kind of person you are. It doesn't matter what you're strong in. It doesn't matter what you have stresses on. That anxiety level is high across the board.
Alyssa, I'll do a quick PSA here. The ThinkX service is available for nurses that would like to take the program. It is available on the gypsynurse.com. If you go over to our community page, it is under Marketplace. So go to the gypsynurse.com community and Marketplace. It is the offer is there, and I believe that ThinkX through you is offering a free 1-year membership for a discounted price. So if folks are interested in learning more about ThinkX, would encourage you to check it out on the gypsynurse.com.
Ah, that's awesome, Steve. Thank you. So not just discounted, it's free. It's a $300 annual subscription, and we're giving it to everyone here for free. So definitely check it out. It's not just a diagnostic, but it has some e-coaching, some self-paced.
Absolutely.
So really, really great resources there. So again, just as more data, more example, no surprise, right? People are stressed. So oftentimes I will read confidence information, or I'm reading about brain science, and the advice that everyone gives is breathe. Just breathe. And I will say to you, that's great. That is a way of what we would say is hijacking or halting the amygdala. You stop that moment, you go, right? Calm down. I got this. Great. Awesome. And why does it work? Well, very simply, you're basically taking over what would otherwise be an autonomic function. Breathing is something you don't normally think about. Your brainstem's in control of your breath. So while you're breathing, your brainstem's in control. It's all of a sudden I said, no, brainstem, I'm going to breathe. It's my prefrontal now in control. So it's good. It's great. Do it. But the question that I get asked more than not when I am coaching other people is, okay, I breathe. Then what do I do? That's great. I stopped the amygdala. Now what? Where do I go with that? So let's talk about some options. What things can we do when we're bullied? And when I say we, anybody can do these things when you're being bullied, but let's talk specifically about travel nurses. So you can certainly ignore it. You can be like, whatever, right? Like let it roll off your back, or try to, but we're a little smarter than that. And our brains are definitely smarter than that. There is something of a micro trauma, like you marking that moment in your brain. And after a while, you get enough of those accumulated. Believe me, those eggs are going to crack. You're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to lash out. So saving it in the brain as a non-momentous memory, trust me, your brain doesn't exactly agree with you. It's going to save it. It's going to store it. It's going to react at some point. Not a great option. Next option, you can report it. We already talked to that. Political problems. Yeah, you're going to have political problems, whether it's the administration or other nurses. Certainly are not going to be like, oh, she's awesome for reporting it, right? It's just not, it's not a positive thing. So I'm going to say again, not a great option. Discuss it with other victims. Get into the chat. Yeah, we can type our brains out there and people are doing it and it's great. And it probably is cathartic. I'm not really sure it solves or fixes it for anyone. I'm not sure that that necessarily makes it better. It just makes it more public. And so again, I'm not going to discourage you from getting it out of your system, sharing it and getting camaraderie. That's not a bad thing. but I'm not really convinced that that's going to do much beyond just stir a pot. Sorry, again, I told you I was being very honest. So
Yeah.
the better option, well, calling it out to the bully. And we saw a lot of that in the chat, Rachel, right? Like there was a lot of people who are like, tell that person to knock it off, tell them to stop it, tell them that, you know, put them down, bully them back, right? I don't know about you, my friend, but it doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like calling out a bully is hard. Can you, I mean, and what's your thought on, we saw a lot of people like, just get out. It's easy to chat and just go beat up the bully, but I can't imagine doing it myself. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Alyssa, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here, because this kind of sums up what we see frequently on this topic in the Gypsy Nurse Facebook network discussion group. I'm seeing some chat responses here as well. That one nurse is saying, Lydia is saying that she stuck up for another nurse and then became a target of other bullies after she stuck up for the nurse. So it seems like each one of these strategies, A, are used quite a bit, and B, they each have their consequences, and that's what's a struggle for people.
Lydia, I am so happy you wrote that, and good for you for being a superhero and then some. And I'm really sorry that it backlash. So these options, not so great. But the last one is, we can stand up to the bully, but we have to be strategic about it. So let's talk a little bit what strategy might look like. And I'm going to flip the coin, because before, when I'm talking about how the brain works and what triggers us to feel badly, you know, the fears in us, the reactive kind of like fight back, hide, oh my gosh, I got to just go in the hall and bury myself right now, that amygdala moment down into the brainstem. I'm going to flip the coin, because here's the reality. It's that the bully is the one that's actually having the initial fear. Surprise, surprise. So they're getting triggered by something. Their brain's doing some wonky stuff down into the brainstem, and they're rolling it forward to the traveling nurse. Now, so far, I'm sure nobody's going, that's a surprise. We know that. But I'm going to invite you to take a moment, and I want you to think about, what is the fear that that nurse is starting with? What is the fear that's causing them to roll it forward? What fear specifically, failure, regret, or rejection, do you think they're having? Rebecca, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat for a minute. Give it a good chat. Give it a good thought. What do you think that nurse who's acting like a bully, we'll pick on the nurse for now. We can certainly flip the scenario to a doctor or a patient, but the other nurse that's acting like a bully, what do you think it is that they're fearing?
Maybe a little of all three, right? And I know Rebecca's going to jump into the chat, but maybe a little bit of all three, especially seeing travel nurses come in, it potentially be, you know, more, I guess, have more knowledge or more information about something, maybe fear of losing their job. Maybe they, you know, lost a nurse that, couldn't work with them, and they have that rejection. So maybe a little of all three. I'm so interested to see what our nurses in this chat say, though.
Yeah, bring it on. Steve, I know you have an opinion on this. What do you think the nurses, like, what's their beef? What's causing them to be so angry and mean?
Well, I think certainly, as we all know, nurses are normally under a tremendous amount of stress. I just think it's part of their daily job. Is there is significant amount of stress, whether it's caring for a patient or dealing with patient's family or dealing with management or scheduling or trying to balance their professional life and their private life. So I think there's just that normal stress, and then I think this year, and we haven't run any numbers on it, but I think this past 12 or 14 months, certainly the stress level has been through the roof. So you're getting that normal level of stress compounded by the stress related to the pandemic, and I think that is just really manifesting itself probably in some bullying actions for some people that are vulnerable to producing that type of behavior.
Okay, so I love your answer, because I'm going to to use it if you don't mind. So we tend to, as humans, we say stress, stress, stress. Here's the reality. Stress makes the amygdala weak. I've already told you that. That's true. Stress isn't something that you can just wish away. And in fact, stress can be really helpful. Stress allows us to get that adrenaline going so we can rush into an emergency situation and actually have our focus. So I'm not going to blame this on stress.
Okay.
I'm not going to. What I'm going to blame it is on typical human behavior that's exacerbated by the stress and the inability to manage it. And what I mean by that is, what is that head nurse doing? Oh, here we go. We're getting some chat in here. That head nurse or the nurse that's being the bully, whoever it might be, I see it in the chat a lot. We'll label it as jealousy, right? We'll say she's jealous. He's jealous. Jealous of what? Jealous of, Rebecca said some earlier, and Sandra said some earlier. Maybe they're worried that they're going to lose their job, that they're not as sharp. Their skills aren't as sharp. They've been in that one hospital, and this traveling nurse that comes in has seen and done other things. Maybe they're a little younger, a little bit closer to their schooling age. So maybe an older nurse would feel intimidated by that. Maybe that bully nurse regrets not taking a couple of years and traveling and seeing the country, seeing the world. Maybe that older nurse doesn't feel she or he is as cool, as is welcome, as is part of the group as the senior nurses. So that big rejection. And I will tell you that at the end of the day, 99% of confidence issues and 99%, maybe even 100% of bullying issues is that last bit. We underestimate how much we want to fit in, how much we want to belong. It goes back to 1940s, Abraham Maslow, hierarchy of needs for any of those who are out there, also Maslow fans, psychology fans. It's all about our need to feel that we are contributing, that we're being liked, that we're part of something, that there's something that's more important than just our physicality, that we're actually contributing to helping people. Now, if you're a nurse and you've been trained as a nurse, and all of a sudden you have some traveling nurse coming in and you're starting to doubt yourself, you lose your confidence. And yes, absolutely, Steve, in moments of stress, we don't have the ability to tell ourselves to knock it off, to stop and realize I'm a great nurse. So instead, what happens is they let that emotion go into their brainstem, and their brainstem then rolls it forward to that traveling nurse.
Yeah. Alyssa, I'm going to mention we're getting a lot of chat activity here, which is wonderful. I'm going to give you some perspectives from some of the nurses that are joining us relative to the causations for bullying behavior. So Lydia mentions personal insecurities. Let me see here. Another Sharon says, interesting that you think bullying is because of fear. That might have been my my comment there. I guess that when I was being bullied by a group of nurses, I didn't look to see if there was fear on their part. Sharon also says, I suppose that they felt threatened by me, even though I didn't think I was doing anything to threaten them. So some sort of perceived threat, essentially, as you were mentioning. And then Gail says, I agree with Lydia and Shannon. It's difficult to face what you don't like or feelings about yourself. So some sort of inward conflict that's coming out. So
That's
great comments from Gail and Rebecca, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for reading those, Steve. Here's the reality is it's not just that we don't want to face it. Sometimes we're not even aware. It can be literally subconscious. I was at a bridal shower yesterday, and two of the people there are nurses, and they're both young and beautiful. And I said to them, do you get bullied? And they're like, all the time. I said, why? And they're like, we don't know. We're trying to do a good job. We're trying to contribute. They're not travelers, but they certainly are getting their share. And, my theory is there's a lot of jealousy. Again, we'll lump it into that kind of word, but there is a reactiveness of they're young, they've got positive energy. They haven't been jaded yet. They have this beautiful energy about them. And yeah, that could cause a lot of self-conflict for people who have been doing the job for a long time. So not to necessarily give that as an excuse, right? But at least understand that that's largely what happens. And when our confidence gets taxed like that, it's hard to put it up in the prefrontal, but it's even harder when you're exhausted and you've got all this pressure of the world that we talked about. So how are we going to deal with this? Now, again, when we were reading the chats, the posts in all the Facebook groups and so forth, there's a wrath of answers. And this is the answer that perhaps my friend Rebecca, who says she's older now, can appreciate, because when you get to be older, we finally get all the pieces of our life together. That's when our confidence peaks. So I'm in that category where I am getting to that point, but I've been studying this for a really long time. And I do believe that fighting back and putting yourself in a position where you're going to be regretting or feeling lousy later is not a good answer. I don't think putting your career in jeopardy is a good answer. All those options we went back before, but I do think standing up for yourself in a way that gets you forward without causing too many problems for you, that's the answer. And that's what I'm going to propose here. So first and foremost, I want you to remember that little picture that we just did. It's that bully is having a confidence crisis. Don't absorb it for yourself. It's not your confidence that's being challenged. It's theirs. Rule number 1. Number 2, name it. In your beautiful brain, take that amygdala moment. And yes, you can breathe, but at the same time, make that part of your brain really work for it. Name it and say, that's the bully. That's the ratchet. That's whatever you want to call it. Give it a name. When you start to think about a name, that part of your brain wakes up. It starts to activate, and subsequently now it's on. You're not giving it to your brain stem. So name it. Smile. It's hard. Somebody's bullying you. Smile. Now, why do we do that? There's a neurological connection with smiling. We could do a whole session on that. Needless to say, when you smile, you actually activate your own endorphins. And it also reminds you that it's really hard to be mad at somebody who's smiling at you. They may even go, why are you smiling? Don't answer, just smile. Now, this is the clinch. This is the clinch, because what we're saying on top is that diffuse. We want to recognize that they're in a confidence crisis, and it's like a bomb, right? We want to diffuse it. So how do we do it? So you're going to start by answering with a phrase that starts like this. Now, here's the secret, is that you want to make them feel valued. That's why they're having the crisis in the first place. They're not feeling happy about themselves inside. They're having one of those fears triggered. So we're going to literally diffuse it, not with kindness, but with a better way of doing it. So you start it with something like this. It's unfortunate that you feel that way. And you see the capital A-N-D, and. Do not use the word but. But puts them back into the brainstem. So it's unfortunate that you feel that way. And I'd like to tell you why I did that. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't, if next time you addressed it to me sooner. And. Here's another phrase you can use. I hear your concern. And. All of these are designed so that you are recognizing that you heard them, and you're giving them the message that they actually matter and that they're valued. You're diffusing that amygdala fire. Here's a third one you can use. Your feedback is important to me. And. Now, are you bowing over and taking it from this person? No, you're not. What you're doing is you're saying, I hear you. You don't have to agree with them, but you're at least acknowledging that you heard them. Very, very powerful phrases. You can use these with any bullies. You go into a supermarket and somebody's nasty to you. You can use it there too. You don't just have to use it with the bully nurse. So very, very simple ways. Again, I'm going to give you this PowerPoint presentation so you don't have to be scribbling like a mad person. Needless to say, I want you to practice these, have them comfortably in your vocabulary, and try them. And call me, write me, send me a mail, anything. Let me know how it's going. I promise you, I really promise you these will make the difference. How do I know? We've been using them for about 10 years. They work. So before I kind of open up for last minute comments from all of my wonderful people online here, chat and otherwise, I want to remind you of something. The reason you got into travel nursing, there are really awesome reasons. They're all valid. They're all important. They're awesome. And don't for a moment let anyone take your confidence, because the world needs you. We need superheroes. We need nurses. and we need you. And don't let bullies bring you down. I want to change those numbers that we saw earlier. I don't want bullying to be the reason why beautiful, awesome human beings like yourselves leave the profession. So with that said, Steve, Rachel, Sandra, wow, thoughts that you have at this moment, and we'll continue to read some chats as they're coming in.
Well, first of all, my initial thought is this is tremendous. I really feel that this is going to be a very valuable tool for our travel nursing community. I think people in general can learn from this, but certainly with the specificity you've provided around travel nursing, I think this is fantastic. So thank you. And we will make sure to make this presentation available on the gypsynurse.com, and we will send out information to our attendees on that and how to get access to this presentation. So number one, thank you for that.
Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to make your job even easier because that's what I love to do.
I love that.
All right. So last year we did give people a copy of the old book, the new book that came out. We're giving everyone a copy who wants it, a PDF copy. And I know I'm asking for 2 more minutes. There's a URL below. That's what we'll be sending out to you all who've been listening live or on the recording. You'll get not only the PDF and a copy of the slides, and I did also put there the ThinkX URL so that if you do want to take your diagnostic and get some e-coaching, you can get it in one foul swoop. So Steve, you guys do so much. You've got this conference running for the next few days. I just wanted to make it easy for everyone. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, Rachel has done all the hard work, so she's made us all look good today. So thank you, Rachel, for putting it all together. One thing I will say that struck me as we were going through this, I guess I'd love you to comment on it, Alyssa. Another aspect of bullying, and maybe at a larger level, is kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is almost a hazing perspective. Hey, particularly coming from probably older nurses, I went through this. This is how I learned the ropes. This kind of, get you ready for your nursing career. This is how, this is how I was taught, I was treated. And this is going to be, it's kind of, for lack of a better word, tough love. You're a younger nurse. You've only been in the profession for a couple of years. I've been around for 25 years. I went through this when I was your age. You should have this sort of feeling too. You need to get your act together. So what is your thought on that? I mean, I've seen that generally in life, right? There were people that grew up with parents like that might have had a little bit of tough love, or coaches, people that played sports, those sorts of things. Do you think that that's applicable or a potential cause for some bullying?
Again, I'm going to give you my opinion. It's an educated opinion, but it is still an opinion. Look, and I'm not saying to coddle people. We don't want to give everyone trophies and build fake self-esteem. That is absolutely not what I'm advocating. But if you're going to bully somebody or you're going to give somebody tough love and just hope that they figure it out, that they get a tough skin and then roll it to the next generation.
Yeah.
Not going to subscribe to that either. So I think part of this, and this is what social emotional learning is really focused on, is being able to have the skills, have the phrases, have the ability to know that I can handle this in a productive way. I don't have to hurt other people in the wake of it, right? I mean, that's part of it. I got hurt, so I'm going to hurt you. I mean, really? I can't condone that on any level. So I think equipping people with a superhero shield, giving them the training that they need to deal with bullying, that's the answer. Hazing in general, it is part of that mentality that I went through this, so you should too. That's going to be part of that fear that's going on. It's like, I had to do this, so why don't you? And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. And I think it's time that we stop it. And this is a way that we can stop the cycle.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I love that. It's been so interesting to listen to you, Alyssa, and listen to just all of the advice that you're giving. I think it's fantastic. There's so much good stuff in the chat. So it's good to see that nurses will be utilizing this. We at AMN do know that it's something that happens, unfortunately. And one of the things that we do help our nurses with is we have a 24/7 clinical team to be able to create that community of, someone who can really be in your corner. So in addition to these words that you have as your shield, Alyssa, Alyssa, we want to provide that additional support so that there's someone there to really feel like they're in your corner to help you kind of navigate some of these things. So just wanted to kind of plug our clinical team because they are so fantastic. They're all nurses. They all have experience, a lot of them with travel nursing and having gone through these scenarios. So really wanted to, make that available to our clinicians to be able to have that additional support.
That's awesome. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that and saying that. Rachel or Steve, because I don't want to ruin the slides at this moment, if somebody can check that URL, I did test it 100 times, but somebody's reporting
Sure.
something's going on with the URL.
I just tested it and it's not currently working at this moment, but once it gets checked out and everything, we'll put it in the comments so everyone will have it, and then we'll put it on our events page under your page. We'll put it in your area as well, so that way anybody that's watching, either Facebook, YouTube, or on the gypsynurse.com, they'll have that link. So we'll get that updated as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Technology all weekend it works, so I don't know, and I apologize, but we will get it fixed right after this. So any other last comments or quotes? I love some of the chat. People are like, we got this, we do got this, and we got it in a way that's smart, strategic, and allows us to be real superheroes and not continue the villainous meanie cycle. So thank you so much for having me, team. You're in great hands with the Gypsy Nurse Squad here. I'm going to leave you all. Wish you a wonderful week ahead. Enjoy the conference. Maybe we'll see each other next year again. I would love that.
Alyssa Dver, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support of the Gypsy Nurse, but more importantly, our travel nurse community. So fantastic information. Again, this will be available on demand. We'll also put the link to your information on our site, on our events, virtual conference events 2021 page. So we've got you covered, okay? We've got you covered, all right? So Rachel, I'm going to throw it back to you. I know we've got some giveaways that you wanted to talk about, and then I think we'll also give Sandra an opportunity as well to talk a little bit more about AMN.
Yeah, definitely. So anybody that commented today, you will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card. And so you can do this on our other sessions today too. You're also going to get all those wonderful gifts from Alyssa. So we'll put that link in there. And then also AMN is giving away a goodie box. It's a very relaxing goodie box. And so anybody that commented in this session will be entered to win that one as well. So I just want to thank you so much, Alyssa. Even though I'm not a nurse, I did learn a lot too. I learned about the breathing thing, but I never learned what to do after. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all your help, Maureen and Jigga. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that everyone in the comments enjoyed too, and everyone interacted. So I will let you get back to confidence crusading and give Sandra a minute to speak about AMN.
Yeah, no, this was so great. And thank you guys again just so much for letting us be a part of it. Hopefully all of the nurses on here and all the ones that will continue to watch this amazing video will learn something. At AMN Healthcare, we do know that our nurses unfortunately face bullying, and we really want to provide an environment that they feel supported in. I talked a little bit about that clinical team, but just available 24/7 to be able to support our clinicians wherever they are at whatever time it might be. Bullying doesn't happen from 9 to 5. Monday through Friday. It can happen on those night shifts over the weekend, and we want our clinicians to really feel supported. They're doing an amazing job at being at these facilities and really helping to support local communities throughout the country that I know I'm grateful for. I mentioned it on another Travel Gypsy Nurse Live that one of my clinicians, actually, when I gave birth to my son last year, was a travel nurse. So they make an impact in our days and our lives in such a huge way. So we want you all to feel supported. We do also offer an employee assistance program for our clinicians that offers free counseling services to just help work through. You're using all the things that Alyssa told you, but sometimes it's nice to have just somebody else that you can talk to and really let them know how you're feeling so that you're not bottling that all up inside of you. So we really hope that our nurses feel supported, and I love that this is just available to all of you. So thank you again, Rachel, Steve, for letting us be a part.
Oh yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, and thank AMN Healthcare for being not only a sponsor of the Gypsy Nurse, but also a sponsor for today's presentation. We really appreciate it, and it was nice to speak to you today. For me, Rachel, as far as my closing it out here, I thought it was a great session today, and I'm excited for our next two sessions later on today. We're going to have Brian Payne, the co-owner of Furnish Finder, along with Cami Norino, who is the COO, and they're going to provide a guide to short-term housing. That's at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And then at 6 o'clock, we are going to have Karen Buxman, an author, a neurohumorist, a nurse, a TEDx speaker, to talk about what's so funny about nursing. And Karen is a blast. She is in the National Speakers Hall of Fame, and I think everybody is going to get a real kick out of it after some heavy-duty topics today. So hopefully people can join us for the 1 o'clock Eastern Time session and the 6 p.m. Eastern Time session, and they can find all that information on the gypsynurse.com. Just navigate to events and Spring Virtual Conference, and you will have all of the events, not only for today, but for the remainder of the week. And it will show you how to watch those events. So you can watch through the gypsynurse.com, you can watch on our Facebook fan page, or you can watch through YouTube. So I think I have it covered, Rachel. I don't think I missed anything in terms of how to be able to watch our events.
Definitely not. And then, too, if you scroll to the bottom of the events page, there is the registration page where if you sign up for that, we'll just keep you up to date on upcoming sessions and everything like that when they're going to start and more information on the presenters. You will be entered to win a $100 gift card. Then also, if you register for the gypsynurse.com, that's at the top of the website, you'll get a double entry. So be sure to register, and we'll be putting you in that giveaway. So thank you so much, Steve, for joining me today. Thank you to everybody participating. And we will see you guys all on the next session.
We'll see you all later. Thanks for joining.